if you can do it later, or if you can do it in staggered times throughout the day, what's wrong with that? You will find that you're actually getting more done and you're doing it with a lot of passion and clarity, rather than trying to fit it in and being on the phone going, Mom, can you pick up the kids? I don't have anyone to pick them up. How many hours are lost during the day because you're on your phone trying to work out who's picking up the kids, and your boss thinks just because you're physically there in front of the screen, you're working? Well, joke's on them, because when you have a look at what you're really doing all day, there are a lot of hours that are wasted. I rather not have you physically there just because I want to look at you, and have you, when you're working, be 100% present, and we work together to see what that means for you, because all our lifestyles are different. It doesn't mean that you're not brilliant at what you do. It just means that you've got other things going on, and that's okay.
Yeah, I love that. I love that flexibility, and that women as CEOs are changing the way that we work. It's amazing.
Absolutely. And I'm really proud to be part of a group of women that recognize this and are going to be the voice for the future. And I think that we are very, very fortunate to have been coming out of a pandemic that only happens every 100 years, because it's given everybody of all age groups, of all race and gender, the opportunity to see how important it is to have flexible hours and to see that it can work. So we really need to use our voice and our platform now to carry that momentum through.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Elle. I've really enjoyed your session this morning, and I know that everyone else who's here has enjoyed it as well. We're now going to have our author panel for today, and we have a few of our authors who we're going to be meeting and hearing from right now. And I'd love to start by introducing some of them. So we have Cherie here. Hi, Cherie, how are you? Cherie, would you like to jump on, and for anyone who hasn't met you before, introduce yourself and tell us a bit about who you are and what you do in your business?
Sure. Thanks so much, Peace. Lovely to be here. So my name is Cherie Gregory, and I am a co-director at Coben Digital. We are one of Australia's largest umbraco web development agencies up here in Queensland on the Gold Coast. So I co-own that company with my husband, Peter, who I've been married to for 20 years. And we've got 4 beautiful teenage children. And don't let anyone tell you that the teenage years are scary. I think teenagers are awesome. I really genuinely enjoy mine. They're really great people. So yeah, I had 4 kids in 5 years, and I was a stay-at-home mum for 12 years after that, which was a huge blessing for me and the family. And then my husband started Coben with a business partner. Unfortunately, that partnership fell out, which I do talk a little bit about in my chapter in the book about partnerships and ins and outs of those. And at that time, he asked me to come back in as a working partner. So I was one of the directors at that point, but I didn't really do much sort of in the company. So I came back and started work full time after 12, 13 years at home, which was a massive jump and leap for me. And especially, I guess, within our company being web design and digital and web development, I knew nothing, and I had to play catch up pretty quickly. But where I eventually found my niche and my genius was within the HR and the culture and community here at Coben. And so that's what I love to grow and talk about and talk to other business owners about, because I'm quite passionate about that. So, and the other thing that we do here that sort of stemmed out of both those passions and both those loves of business and parenting is we developed a parenting app called Thumpsters Parenting App. So I'm the main driver behind that as well. So we co-own that together. We're both directors for Thumpsters, but I do the majority of my work now with Thumpsters. So yeah, that's what I do. That's what I love doing. Yeah, I've loved being part of this book and this process. It's been amazing just to meet other business women. I think that was an area I was majorly lacking in my life, was those business connections. I had a great friendship group, but not a lot of connections, sort of, yeah, women in business. So this has been really excellent for that.
Yeah, fantastic. So Cherie, can you tell us a bit more about the Thumpster app? Because I've heard of it. I know it's a parenting app, but what does it do? How does it work?
Sure. So I love telling the Thumpster story. It was It was a bit of a unique one in that we didn't go out to start a business with Thumpsters. It was purely jumping back into full-time work after 13 years, 4 kids. They weren't teenagers at that point. They were just coming into that sort of busy teenage hood, and you know, behavior-wise, all of the new challenges that I'm trying to be very tactful, all of the challenges that brought with it. And we had some app developers in-house at the time. We were developing an app for Garage Entertainment, which is a big sort of extreme sport entertainment group, and they were developing an app. Well, we were developing it for them. And I said to my app guys, coming back into full-time work, I just need a way to keep tabs of where everyone's at, because we'd like be on the way to school. And again, I was homeschooling. My kids are doing distance ed at that point, so they jumped back into the school world, which was full on for them, full on for us, just settling back into those routines and everything that brought with it. And I said, you know, I'd be in the car on the way to school and everyone would be fighting and screaming. Full transparency here, as awesome as I think my guys are, they're still kids and I'm still human as a mum. And I'd sort of say to them, oh, stop yelling and screaming, and you're grounded and no screens for you. And they'd kind of laugh, and then I'd laugh because everyone knew that I'd forget by the time we got home who was grounded from what and why and when and where. And so I said to my app team, I just really love an app where I can kind of keep tabs on, you know, where everyone was at behavior wise, and also when they're doing awesome. I'm a big believer in recognizing that and giving encouragement and feedback on that as well. It's not just about sort of giving correction when behavior is negative. So they built me the app to use, and then we started using it, saw these massive behavior changes. Yes, it sort of started out extrinsic because they were, so you get a thumbs up or a thumbs down, and then that tallies up and you end up reaching a goal that they might be going for, like more screen time or, you know, a date with mum or dad. And yes, it's extrinsic, but what it does is it creates better behavior loops within the family. And then the behavior becomes more intrinsic as everyone realizes that, hey, getting along with my sibling feels good, feels great. We have a better relationship. We have more peace and better boundaries in the home. So that's kind of how that works. But as we developed it and as our family saw these major changes and our family and friends started to see the changes that we were seeing, they asked if they could have the app, and we were like, yeah, sure, go for it. And I think, as I spoke last night at my swimming pool cocktail party, we're chronic entrepreneurs, and my husband kind of ended up saying, hey, why don't we make a business out of this? And so off we went, and that's how it kind of grew. It's gone gangbusters over in the States especially, and overseas, and now we're developing Thumpsters in schools. So yeah, that's a little bit about Thumpsters. I love it. It's not for everyone, but yeah, we've been seeing some major wins for a lot of families that we work with.
Sounds amazing. Congratulations. Such a great idea.
Yeah, it was good that it just sort of grew out of a passion as well, rather than it really grew organically, which was, it was a different way to do business, but it was a really positive way for us to do business as well, I feel.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, we might go to Brenda now. Hi, Brenda. How are you?
Hi, I'm really good. How are you?
I'm good. Brenda, we'd love to give you the opportunity to introduce yourself for anyone who hasn't met you before and don't know what you do. Could you tell us a bit about that?
Yep. So I am Brenda Keane. I am the founder and director of an activewear company for, initially it was created for curvier girls, but we now have activewear ranges from size 6 to 38 for women, extra small to I think 5XL for men, and 4 to 14 for kids as well. So we've got activewear for everybody now. Yeah, we did. We were already online when COVID hit and everything, you know, happened this year. But one of our plans was to go global, so that was sort of put on the back burner a little bit. But we will definitely be global next year. We are actually in the process of bringing our leggings back on shore too. So we currently have them made ethically overseas by a small business, and they're considered quite small in their country. It's a family, 3 brothers. But we also wanted to bring our leggings back into Australia, especially with what happened with the pandemic. We had a lot of difficulty getting anything. So also in the process of working with some busy ladies in Burleigh Heads in Queensland. They are now, we're moving into a maternity range. So our maternity leggings just launched during COVID, and they are really beautiful as well. And they're made in Australia. So we will be having more of our leggings made in Australia. All of our tops, like this beautiful pink for the book, are made here in Australia, and we're very proud of that. We do designs for, so at the moment I've got a lady who, I can't think of the word. Isn't it terrible to be lost for words and you're an author? But yes, so there is a word for it. But so she has an unusual shape, and so we've taken her measurements and we'll make her a special, a t-shirt to fit her shape. So we do that quite a bit. And we advertise that we have activewear for everybody. And so one of the other things that we're looking at, which we've discovered, is that there are women who have, there are quite a few women in a group that have a particular shape. So we talk about, you have the orange shape, but you have really thin legs. And for them, leggings just don't work, but they want to wear leggings. So, we're looking at that next year as well. So being able to create, those ranges for, I suppose, people who are difficult to fit into any standard, if you can call it standard. So, yeah, that's pretty much what we do, or I do. I'm also a mum to 4, so busy with that, a wife, a daughter, a friend, all those sorts of things. So, yeah, very busy.
Fantastic,
but I enjoy
Brenda.
it.
And I love that you're creating designs that suit different body shapes, because not everybody is the same body shape, and yet so much of the clothing is just built to the standard sizing.
Yeah, it is, and it's really hard because they'll send you a photo, so the tummy fits really, really well, but their legs are just so so much slimmer that it's all just baggy material, and so that they're disappointed because they really want to be able to wear them. So yeah, so we're looking at that for next year, and creating a special range for those different shapes as well. So yeah, I think that's why I began the business too, was because for me, I really loved Lorna Jane and Lululemon, and I could never get anything that fitted me. I was on a weight loss journey at the time and met a lot of other women with the same issue, and that was 10 years ago. And then to still come further forward 7 years, and there was still nothing that for the bigger girls in the quality of the Lululemon and Lorna Jane's gone down a little bit now, but there was just nothing for us, and yeah, it was just disappointing. So that's what I did.
Amazing. I love it when people see a problem and find a way to solve it. So well done. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brenda. Davina's here as well. Hi, Davina. How are you?
I'm very well. Thank you, Peace. Thank you.
Lovely to have you here today, Davina. For people who haven't met you before, can you tell us a bit about who you are and what it is that you do in your business?
So my name's Davina. I am the founder and solicitor director at the Mumpreneur Lawyer. So we really help mum startups protect their businesses from legal risk with online legal solutions. So that's really my focus and my passion. So it's a lot of fun. I get to speak with people with some of the most incredible, innovative ideas every day. So.
Beautiful. Thank you, Davina. It's lovely having you here. And we have Elle Likopoulos joining our panel as well. Hi, Elle. Elle was our presenter this morning, but if you're just joining us, you're just tuning in, I'll get Elle to reintroduce herself and tell us a bit about who she is and what she does in her business. Oh, we can't hear you, Elle.
That's better.
There you are.
Thanks, guys, for tuning in. My name is Elle Likopoulos, and I run Absolute Business Brokers and have a podcast called the Mumpreneurs Club, and I'm a mum of 4 kids. Absolute Business Brokers is a business broking company which is essentially like a real estate agent, but instead of selling houses, we sell businesses. Can be online businesses, businesses run from home, any sort of business that is a registered trading business, we can represent the sale of and the purchase of if you're looking to buy as well. My industry was very heavily male dominated and still to some degree is. And I found myself having a very difficult time at the beginning, paving a way to earn respect amongst my peers. The industry's mostly older men, probably 50s to 60s up. And so it was also an age discrimination where it was very hard for a young woman with 4 small children to be able to be seen on an equal platform. And it meant that I had to work very hard and make quite a lot of mistakes in regards to my family and balancing act. And so I share in the book, in my chapter, a lot of the mistakes that I've done myself and mistakes that I've seen business owners make in relation to how to run a business and how to balance and take care of yourself, most importantly, because that really will be a reflection of how successful you are. You can't do anything being tired and stressed, and you're not very creative when you feel that way either. So that's really just where I'm coming from with my voice, and hopefully I can help a few people with some truths that I think we all know, but sometimes it's nice to hear and just confirm that we're on the right track.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Thanks, Elle. So we might have a bit of a chat now with each of our authors about their chapter and what some of the messages that they're wanting to share are. So Cherie, I'll come back to you. Can you tell us a bit about the stories that you shared in your chapter and what your messages were that you were wanting to share with the audience?
Sure. My chapter is called The Long, Long Game. And again, it's something I'm pretty passionate about, given that Peter and I have had multiple businesses over our 20 years of marriage. And for every business we've probably had 20 business ideas. We've had some, especially in the early days, which we started and very quickly got disillusioned or just didn't have the right tools or knowledge or support to see them go the distance. And looking back, that's frustrating because some of them probably could have gone the distance, but that's fine. I'm a big believer in what will be, and so we've left those behind, and now we have 2 awesome companies that we love. But so what I'm passionate about is helping other, especially female entrepreneurs, sticking in it, gaining the right tools, having the right support to see it through for the long game. And it's something that I often say to my kids. Again, they kind of take after us. They've had several little businesses, side hustles that they've got going, and I talk about that in my chapter, but also in relationships and stuff like that in the teenage years as they're starting to experiment with those. It's like, guys, play the long game. Stop making these silly little mistakes that just see things crash and burn or stall out, and just focus on the long game and learn how to do things properly, and learn how to learn the tools and find the tools to make sure that happens for you. So I talk about quite a bit in my chapter. I think some of the massive lessons that we've learned over the years are a big one that I talk about is partnerships. Again, I think it was just our age and experience. We always used to go into business and go, right, who do I know that I can go into partnership to do this with? Because A, it's more fun, and I'm just from fun country. And B, it feels less risky when you have somebody else alongside you. And I know a lot of people who've had successful business partnerships. And I also know a lot of people who haven't, and I can think of just 3 or 4 of our own businesses and business partner experiences that have not worked out for various reasons. And more often than not, they end in a lot of heartbreak and hurt because they just haven't been done right. So I talk about the pros and cons of business partnerships, and also if you do go down that road, what are some of the things to keep in mind to make sure that it is successful and that everyone walks away happy and healthy from it. I also talk about mindset. I spoke about this at the cocktail party last night, and again, it's something that I have a lot of experience with. over 20 years of various business experiences, a lot of them when I was younger. You know, I had quite a traumatic teenage years experience, and I took a lot of that hurt and unhealthiness into our earlier businesses as well as our marriage. So I had a lot of steep learning curves in terms of how to get myself healthy. I'm a big believer in it, and I think, you know, we come from, again, if we're talking about male dominated business leadership skills, you know, a generation or two ago, there was a lot of weakness around admitting that you were not okay and that you needed help. Not so much in running the business, you know, having a good accountant or having a lawyer, one thing or another, but you as the business owner, mindset wise and holistically wise. And I think as we see more and more women business leaders come up through the ranks, we are the ones going, actually, takes a lot of strength to say I'm not okay and I have weaknesses. It's a bit of a oxymoron, isn't it? I'm weak in these areas. It takes a lot of strength to be able to say that. And so I go through what some of those might look like and some of the places you can reach out for help. You know, some of them are quite hands-on, like your accounts or money. And then some of them go a little bit deeper, like, you know, addictions and relationships and stuff like that. So that's another thing that I feel quite strongly about. And one of the other things I go into depth about is marketing. And that was a massive area that when I finally learnt it, instead of going, oh, she'll be right, it'll kind of just market itself, made a massive difference to me and the way I run my businesses, or we run our businesses, and the success that we've seen come out of it. So I just give a few tools in terms of how to look at your marketing and how to understand it, and then where and how to seek help should you need to. So yeah.
Fantastic. There's a lot of content through there that you've shared in your chapter. I'll go back to the first thing you talked about, and that was about partnerships and collaborating. And you talked about the pros and cons of that, because it can go so badly wrong, but it can work really well as well. So what are some of the key things to keep in mind if you're wanting to create a partnership? What do you think are the things that make it work?
Things that I think make it work. The only partnership for me that has ever worked and worked really well has been probably my business partnership with Peter, who's also my husband of 20 years. And even that has had its challenges for obvious reasons. But when I was doing my research into perhaps why the other ones didn't work so well, and especially for this chapter, because I wanted to give a, you know, obviously a balanced point of view, I think having really clear heads of agreement, first and foremost, having it written down from the get-go, not when you need it, and running into problems going, okay, we should probably have some kind of agreements written down. Clear roles defined, absolutely. And sorry, I just had a brain fart for a second. And absolutely doing it for the right reasons. As I touched on earlier, I think a lot of us, or I know I go into it for the wrong reasons, which is, you know, it feels safer, or this person has a skill that I don't have, or it's just more fun when you do it with somebody else, or they'll keep me accountable. And I also go through in the chapter that there are other ways to make sure you have those things in place without necessarily taking on a partner. But yeah, I think absolutely having clear roles, having clear agreements written up from the get-go, having an exit strategy if one partner does want to leave for whatever reason, really clear communication, and making sure, as I say in my book, it's almost like a marriage, like you are intimately involved with this person. If we're talking for the long game, hopefully for the long haul. And so you need to make sure that your communication is great, as in a marriage, from the beginning. Yeah, those are some of the things I think has worked between Peter and I, and the business partnerships I see around me that have worked really well. But yeah, hopefully that helps a little, answers your question.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you talk about your business partnership with your husband. How do you, when it comes to making decisions for the business, how do you, I guess, negotiate what your ideas and his ideas and come to an agreement?
Oh, that's a bit of a tricky one. I guess after 20 years, it's just kind of organically happened. I think I joke that, well, I don't joke actually, it's quite honest, that at times, especially in those sort of middle years, you know, Peter and I were almost better business partners than we were marriage partners. And we, you know, went through several years when the kids were young, as often couples do, that it was, you know, just hard going and everyone was tired and working out our roles at home. But we, I don't know, we always managed to come in and have clearly defined roles again, here in the office and at work. We always built each other up in our respective areas. So Peter always tells me how genius I am with the HR and the community and culture, and vice versa. He's obviously our director and CEO and head of technology, and he is brilliant in that area. I think always telling other people how highly we think of each other when it comes to, you know, what we do in work. And I think it's been great for our marriage, seeing the business grow and having that in common. Yeah, we've never put a lot of pressure on, and this is just for us. I recognize that this is possibly different for everybody, but we've never put pressure on home is home and work is work. If we're at home and we want to talk about work, then we will sit down and we'll talk about work, or we'll go for a big massive walk together and we'll talk about work. And often we joke that's some of our best business meetings is just when we're out for a walk, because there's so much going on in the office with our staff and stuff managing here during the day. So for us, that's worked really well, not having that pressure. I have friends who do work together and they're very big on when you're at home, it's at home, and when you're at work, it's at work. But for us, we've kind of never had that pressure on ourselves. So because we've never set that, we've never kind of failed at it. But I think also not doing things when one of us feels like it's a huge risk as well. We're quite honest and open with each other. We both have to be in agreement, but we most often are. So that's not a huge issue either. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. So the next question was going to be, how do you manage, you know, home and business and not let the business take over everything? When it's your work and you are talking about it at home, do you switch off phones at a certain time, or like turn off the laptop and this is family time now? How do you manage all of it so that you're not just continuously working?
No, no, nothing's ever turned off. Everything's always on, and our kids have just always been involved and around it in that way. And I think, actually, it's funny. I was just, and I loved what you were speaking on earlier as well, that you know, I've never apologized when I have to leave work or if I'm not in at work because one of the kids has an appointment. I found myself doing that this morning and I had to stop myself. I was talking to my marketing guy and he's just come on in the last couple of months, and my kids have just gone on holidays. And so I'm in and out of the office if I'm in at all during the holidays. And I found myself sort of apologizing for that. Oh, I'm so sorry that I'm not here, but you can always contact me on phone and this, that, and the next thing. But the reason we started this company, part of it was for the flexibility with family, and it's afforded us that. It's meant that someone's always been at their appointments or their sports. It's meant that someone's always there for them after school. So on one hand, we don't have that, I guess what some would say, work-life balance, but it works both ways. Like family is family at work and work is work at home with the family, and the kids have always been around that. And I think it's taught them a lot about work ethic and integrity. And yeah, I hope that kind of answers your question. When we do, the only time has been when we just went away last week for our 20th wedding anniversary. I did say to the PMs, can we just have that day, just one day, when no one calls Peter, he is off. Didn't happen, by the way, but you know, you can't. And I guess that's the other thing is I've had to learn to not be too upset about it. Yeah, if Pete does have to work late or fight fires, then that's what they do. But we both recognise that owning the companies that we do has afforded our family a lot of balance in other ways. So I think being mindful in that respect helps a lot.
Amazing. Okay, well, thank you, Cherie. That's been amazing hearing about how you do things and how your partnership works with your husband. That's excellent.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Liz.
So Brenda, I'll come to you now. Can you tell us a bit about your chapter and the message and the stories that you shared?
Yes, of course. So my chapter is called, I think it's called Giving Back. I'm pretty sure it's called Giving Back. Isn't that terrible? But I know it's about giving back. So it's about one of the things that I knew, and I've known for a very long time, even before I went into my own business, was that I wanted to be able to give back something. I'm really sorry, the microwave's going off. Sorry about that. But giving back, I'm passionate about that. I lived in a house where, from a very young age, I just remember my dad was an army officer, and then when he left the army, he spent time giving time to legacy kids, so young boys that might have lost their dads, or mainly dads in that era, at war, and he would run gymnasium classes for them and teach them how to, jump those wooden horses and do all sorts of things with those kids. So he was always volunteering his time to do that or to coach a footy team. He sadly had 4 girls, so he never got the footy team of his own. And then mum too. So mum was always volunteering. She still does. She's 80 next year, and she volunteers at the local hospital 1 day a week. She had foster babies, so we used to look after babies. Mum mainly, when they were back in the day, young mums that were giving up their babies for adoption had 30 days to change their minds. So we would have the babies in that 30 days. And then she was part of a group called Beta Sigma Phi, and they used to raise money for charity. So it was something that was always around me. It was not anything that was like, you have to do that or you should be doing it too, but it was just something that was there and we saw it a lot of. And so as I probably got older and realized that, yes, some really bad things had happened to me in my life, but I was really fortunate and lucky. I wanted to be able to do something to give back to. So when I didn't have my own business, I volunteered as well for the Salvation Army, and work at a cafe in the city that they have. And then once I had my own business, I looked for opportunities to be able to, give back then, because I felt I had a bit more, I suppose I thought I was going to have more money maybe, but I definitely just wanted to make a difference. So I wanted our business to make a difference. And so I talked I talked a lot to the people that I work with about, making a difference one pair of leggings at a time. And so I talk about, how do you make that decision if that's what you want to do? And again, I talk about the ways to give back. You don't have to give money. You can give time. You can give products. You can just raise awareness for something. So there's lots of ways that you can actually give back. And I talk about if that is something that you want to do, that you should really have that as part of your vision statement or your mission statement, your goals, whatever you actually have for your business, so that everybody understands that if they're working with you or for you, that is also something that's part of, your moral, the way you were brought up, or the way you want to operate in business, I suppose. And so your sort of moral code. I talk about, that is one of our mission statements, that we want to be able to make a difference and give back to charities. And I also make an effort to work with people who have similar, they don't necessarily, not vision, I wouldn't say vision, but just that they are similar. They have similar beliefs. And I make a point of giving back to charities that I feel I would have benefited from in previously, if I had have been able to give back, if I had been able to find help, in earlier years. So things like giving back to, domestic violence charities. And I'm very passionate about people that are homeless or just, living on the streets because through no fault of their own, they've got nowhere else to go. So, looking at ways, and again, that doesn't have to be money. You can just, at Christmas time, they do things like It's in the Bag, and you can just find some of your old handbags and give them, put the things in that they want and give back that way. Or, there's just lots of ways you can do it. We've also worked with young designers, an Indigenous designer. So again, working with our Indigenous people, having a beautiful design, and then she chose a charity that she wanted to give the money to. So part of the money from the sale of her leggings or her design on our leggings goes to that particular charity. So I talk about, ways of doing those sorts of things, and also about not being disappointed. We had a big campaign with the Hunger Project and really thought it was going to go gangbusters. So I have a lot of stock at the moment. And I was a bit disappointed because we raised, I think we've raised about $400 now. And initially when I went back to the team at the Hunger Project and we talked about it, because we worked with them on this legging design, and then they pointed out to us about what a difference just $20 makes in being able to educate a mother on how to eat nutritiously, I can't say the word, nutritiously, and be able to, give that, look after her baby or feed her baby and raise a child so that they don't have those young infant deaths. So when she told us that about the $20, then it really made us realise how much of a difference anything can make. And so I talk about that in the book as well, how not to be disappointed, because lots of little bits add up to a lot. And so over time, the small amounts that you're giving really do make a difference. So yeah, I think that's pretty much what my chapter in the book is about, how to give back.
I love that, Brenda. I love that, even giving a small amount can make a big difference to someone. That example from the Hunger Project of, even $20, which doesn't seem like a big donation or a big contribution. Actually, the impact that has on those people is so huge, really, for them and in their life. So seeing that from that perspective really makes a difference, I think, in thinking about how can we give back.
It really does. They ran a campaign, which I talked about last night, during COVID, about if you can't go out for coffee anymore, could you just donate that $5 from your coffee to the Hunger Project? And they raised a lot of money because people were quite happy to just give that coffee money for a day to them. And I saw someone else, I think it's Taran in South Australia, raised money for the homeless by doing the same sort of thing. She asked everybody just to donate $6, nothing more, nothing less, just $6. And she's, I think, doubled or tripled the target that they set. So it really can make a difference. And it's good to know that you are then doing something for somebody else.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And I think imagine if every business owner did that, they had giving back as some part of their business strategy, it would make a big difference to the world. But also, I think, and the other thing that you talk about is that when you are generous and you're giving back, other people recognize that and they relate to that. And people who share your values are more likely to want to do business with you as well, because they recognize what you're doing in giving back. So that's the other aspect of it.
Yeah, sorry, you were cutting out a bit there. I couldn't quite hear what you said.
Oh, I was just talking about how giving back helps the people that you're giving back to directly. They benefit from that, but also you benefit because your clients and people who share those values of wanting to support something will want to support you because you're doing the right thing and you're helping others.
I think so, yeah. We found a lot of people do buy the leggings that are for a particular cause. They do really well because they feel like they are actually, they're getting something for their money, but they're also giving back.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Thank you, Brenda. We might go to Davina now. Hi, Davina. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
So Davina, tell us a bit about your chapter and some of the messages that you were wanting to share with writing your chapter.
So my chapter is called Time Well Spent, and I think it's like one of the most important things we can really value. And when we get to the bottom of our values, we can determine how best to spend our time. So I really don't think there's nearly as much value in sort of money or or where you live or wrapped up in things, but what we all have and what we only have a finite amount of is time. And it's the biggest gift, because when our time's up, it's up. And we have to make the most of the opportunities that come our way during our lifetime.
So tell me a bit about time and what it means to you.
So I think as a lawyer, I spent many years recording time, doing timesheets, recording time in 6-minute increments, as you do as a lawyer. And I didn't really think too much about my values or where I was spending time. So my values were things like friends and family, but I wasn't spending much time with them. So there was quite some dissonance there. And I think as my life has gone on, they have become much more consonant. So the way I spend my time now is really the way I can live my values. So I spend a lot of time with my son, and I want to be there as he's growing up. So it makes me a more contented person, I think, and my business works for me in that way, and I make sure it works. So I'm spending the right amount of time that's needed, but no more.
And so what are the strategies that you recommend for people who are wanting to take more control of their time?
So I think, one of the first things you really have to do is set out your values, and then those values will determine where you should be spending your time. So, if you really, if you've already started a business and you value innovation, you should be looking to maybe spending an hour a day on product development or service development, if you're the person sort of responsible for innovation. If you're really, if you're really valuing the social aspect of your business, then you should be devoting an hour a day to being social, interacting with other people. If I don't know, if, and so on and so on. So once you determine your values, it's very easy to then sort of sit down and almost time block your day into divisions where you can spend really productive, focused time. So one of the things that I was talking about last night at our little cocktail party was that there is a movement now called Time Well Spent. And they've actually developed a Centre for Humane Technology. And I guess the idea is that we want to develop tech in the future that is ethically designed and really, avoids the sort of mental health issues that can arise when we get constant notifications or these sort of dopamine hits because of likes on a post or that sort of thing, which is becoming a major issue with our teenagers. So I think by looking at ethical design and using some of those concepts, we can actually improve our own lives and improve our business lives too. So for example, I've turned off all my notifications and I just devote particular times throughout my day when I check email, when I check Facebook and Instagram and all those incredible, like amazing technologies like we're on right now, but can also be massive holes that people sort of sink down. Yeah.
That's so interesting. And the time well spent movement is something I hadn't heard of before. However, I have seen the documentary, The Social Dilemma, which seems to touch on some of those same ideas about really exploring the tech and how it's actually been designed to be addictive and designed to make you stay on there more. Is that what the time well spent movement is about?
Absolutely. It's about using tech deliberately and using it to be creative, not using it just as a consumer. Whilst it's brilliant as a consumer, I love consuming, I love buying online. I love some of the recommendations that I'm sent, but I'm also very conscious of them. So making sure that, you know, we're not spending hours away from our family just on our phones. Make sure if we're having a nice family dinner, all the phones aren't just sitting on the table as a distraction, because it actually affects everyone. Even if there's just one phone there, it is a distraction. It's designed to be a destructive device. So yes, but the social dilemma is brilliant in sort of shedding a bit of light onto the mental health issues that can arise. Particularly, I think they portray one young girl who's very affected by Instagram photos and that sort of thing. So as long as we bring these to our conscious minds as adults and business owners, and use tech in a very deliberate way, and also promote the ethical design of tech into the future. And I mean, there's another side to all of this, and that is that unfortunately at the moment, a lot of the developers are men. And so we really need to promote women in the tech industry and into AI and development such as that, so that we get other perspectives and we get some not just, you know, different gender perspectives, but diverse perspectives in the development of the future of tech, because it's huge and it's here to stay. And, you know, when words like Google become a verb that we use all day, every day, it's really just, you know, it's huge. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so passionate about getting more women in tech and women in being part of the design process of things and having different perspectives, because when things are just designed by men or by one kind of person, it doesn't account for the differences that we all have, and it doesn't think about, you know, the ethical perspectives that we need to be looking at. So important.
Yeah, and for the future of our children, we really want to create a great future for them, and they're very vulnerable in their teenage years in particular. So by taking back control and teaching them really good, deliberate ways of using tech as a creative device, and you know, being really disciplined surrounding it, I think, you know, there's an amazing future for us all.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Davina. I think that chapter is going to be a fascinating one for people to read and to learn more about.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So now we'll go to Elle. Hi, Elle. How are you?
Hi, Peace. I'm good, thanks.
So, Elle, tell us a bit about your chapter and what some of those messages were that you really wanted to share with people.
So my chapter is the key to winning in business is to make up your own rules. And the reason why I wrote this chapter is because, like I said earlier, as a young mum of 4 kids, 2 of which are twins that are turning 2 next week, actually, I always get asked, how do you do it all? How do you manage to have all these different businesses? You know, I've got my podcast, I've been writing in a book, I've got my business, my company, Absolute Business Brokers, where I'm, you know, the #1 best-selling agent. I manage the team. I work alongside my father and help with the branding and all of that. And I have my house. I entertain. I take care of the kids. Predominantly, I'm the main caregiver. I don't miss a concert. I drive them to their sports activities. And it's like, how do you fit so much in one day? And the answer is always, I play by my own rules. And I never realized that that was such a significant statement that was so different to so many people to hear, and so profound. And really, the reality is that you can't work within the constraints of what society expects, within the 9 to 5s and all the normal sort of timetables that the society has sort of put on us and think that you're going to have it all. You can watch all the Marie Kondo episodes you want on Netflix and organize everything. You can, read all the self-help books, but it's actually not possible. It is not possible for you to get everything done, be the perfect housewife, have a spotless home, put all the laundry away, keep the kids happy, not yell at anyone, not be too tired to watch a Netflix movie with your husband at night, and do amazing at work. You can't have all of that if you're going to work within the constraints of the timetable that society has put forth on you and that man has created. So the best way to go about that, given that it is too difficult and takes a very long time to change people individually on how they think and their mentality, is to actually own your own business and take control of your own lifestyle. Make the business and make what you do for a living fit and mold around your life. And it's kind of what we've all been talking about, but just from a different aspect, is that it should be part of you. It shouldn't be something where you have to physically say, I'm doing these rigid hours. It's just something that blends within your life. And rather than you changing to fit work sort of molds to fit your family, because it's one thing changing yourself, but we don't have the control and the right to change our husband and our children to also work around our choice of where we work. And for some people, that has meant that they've been stay-at-home mums and they haven't been able to re-enter the workforce, which I'm all about choice. If you want to stay home, then it's your prerogative and you should do so. But unfortunately, there are a lot of women that felt that they had no other choice but to stay home because their career or their work path was simply not going to work out. So in my chapter, I talk about all the different things that you need to mainly think about when you're looking at stepping out on your own and starting a business. I start with don't try and fit in. It's your overwhelming instinct is to try and see what everybody wants you to do or what everyone suggests that you do. Because when you haven't owned your own business and you're doing it for the first time, can be really scary to back yourself and can be really scary to listen to your gut instinct. But you will find that the most successful people in business are the ones that can block out the noise and listen to their gut instinct. If you find that you're just doing what everyone thinks that you should be doing, then you will slowly realize you don't really have any original idea. There really is no point in doing business, and you're just really a glorified employee again because you're working for the business. You're not working for yourself. Business needs to be something that you are in control of. It can't be in control of you. And it starts with the very first step, which is what your idea is and what your concept is. And follow your gut. If it doesn't exist and people don't get it, well, maybe you're onto something at the end of the day. All the best ideas are the ones that people haven't had before. So just trust yourself. And then I go into talking about business trends, which I think Davina would probably be touching on as well, with the fact that social media can be a fantastic tool, but can also be dangerous, because I believe that it dulls our imagination and ability for creative, unique thought. You can jump on social media, and I say it's a really good idea to use the hashtags that are trending so that you can understand what your potential target audience might be interested in and work out what their core values would be. But don't start copying or mimicking any trends that are already happening, because if it's a trend you're already seeing, by the time your business gets off the ground and actually starts working, that trend is likely to be at the tail end. So you're setting yourself up for failure and an expiration date before you've even opened your doors or launched a website. The best thing is to understand what your values are and stick to a base note value of what your business or your brand will stand for, and then use the trends that are going on so that you can have those peak income streams and ability to gain more audience. But that's not what you're going to rely on to actually get that constant customer loyalty. And I talk about some examples of how I've seen in multiple cases and industries how failing to realize what's a trend and what's a value can lead to quite a lot of money being lost. And it really never ends any other way unless you have the ability to keep as many doors as possible open and pivot quite easily. Your business has to be moving, it's alive, rather than just one pathway, one stream. Spending where it counts is another point that I talk about. When you make the decision to buy a business or start a business, it is a money pit that never ends. I mean, you can spend money that you would have never even dreamed of. I can give you examples of people that have bought a cafe and they've spent $100,000 on a toilet because of the piping and the plumbing and how they wanted it to be, and having to reconfigure everything. And some of the expenses that people have gone through, if I shared some of those examples, and I do in my book, it just blows people's minds. And these are everyday small businesses that you would walk past or interact with, and you wouldn't even have a clue how much they've spent. You know, small at-home businesses that are making Etsy-based homemade products, spending 70 grand on a website. And this is something that you need to factor in and determine what you actually want from your business, how much you're willing to spend or you can afford to spend, what you feel that you would want your investment return to be, how much are you planning, or what is your goal of getting out of this business? Is it a side hustle where it would be great in a year's time if it just made you earn a little bit of extra money for the Christmas presents for the kids or a holiday? Are you relying on this to pay your mortgage? These are all the questions you need to ask yourself to determine how much money you need to spend. And unfortunately, one of the biggest mistakes that business owners do is they get really, really caught up with the look, and they get really caught up with the graphic designer and the website and all this stuff, which is just never ending. And it's important, but where you really need to be spending your money is on a good solicitor, on a good accountant. Are you structured right? Are you a sole trader? Should you be a company? Are you in a partnership? Is that partnership created 50-50? What are your exit strategies? With your solicitor, have you read the lease that you've signed into? Do you know that there's a demolition clause? Do you know what that even means? Do you know what would happen if you couldn't pay your rent? All these questions and all these foundations that you need to set yourself up on, unfortunately, are one of the last things that people think about spending the money on, because it's not an immediate fix. When you've got 5 grand, for example, you would rather spend it on getting the graphics for an awesome logo rather than sitting down with a solicitor to read through your contracts, because you feel like you're not getting anything back for it. However, the reality is, when you're having issues with your landlord, or when you're having issues with your partner and you want to sell and they don't agree, or anything like that, that money that you spent at the beginning has meant that you have that safety structure where you know exactly what to do next. The logo and all the other fancy things that you bought that make it look pretty aren't going to do that. So it's important to factor in for some of the things that might not be as fun, but it's really quite important. And just using your money and spending it wisely, and conscious of everything that you're spending and putting into it. Because the business, as fun as it is, as creative as it is, it's a business. It's there as an investment, and it's a tool to make you money. It's not just something that we're throwing money into without ever expecting to get that return back. So you always have to spend according to what your return will be. Another interesting part that I talk about in my book is about not catching feelings. And I relate a business and compare it to a toxic relationship, or that boyfriend that you knew when you were dating in high school or uni probably wasn't the right one for you, but you just couldn't help but answer the phone and couldn't help but saying yes when he told you to go on a date. A business is like that, because even though we tend to relate it to a newborn, or it's my baby, my business is my baby, in a lot of ways it is like a baby. It is something where, as a first-time parent, you learn to see the world differently. You see the world through your baby's eyes. You look at interaction and relationships differently. You see the different development stages. You're exhausted, but you wouldn't change it for the world. All these rewarding roller coaster of emotions are very, very similar to what will happen when you start your own business. You will see the world through business owner eyes. You will never look at relationships and never look at individuals interacting the same way again, because you have a different perspective of human behavior and interaction. So in that way, it's similar, because it changes you forever, and most of the time for good.